What's going on, guys? Pegasus and Wise guys. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Come in, close the door, have a seat. Good to see you guys. I had to talk about Centurion. Been playing it a lot. Been playing a lot of locals. Done well within locals. First place a couple times. Went 3-2 with it last week. I'm like, all right, it's time to profile this one because I got other ones. The Dogmatica version, the Shadows Light version. There's so much to talk about. So little time to talk about it. Let's get into it. Shout out to the Wise guys. Birds are chirping. Got to talk about Primera, the Stratos of the deck. Light spellcaster that is also a continuous trap when it is on their turn or on your turn and in the main phase to be able to summon itself. It is a spellcaster and it is a tuner. Very, very important. There's obvious room for other techs, and we will be showing that in the coming weeks, but Primera is way too good. Chudea is the other part of the FTK. They're both FTKs. If you draw either one of them and you normal summon them and you're not interrupted, it is game over with. If you draw both of them together, it's really game over with. Can't really remember when you really get them off losing. So that's how good they are. Pseudo FTKs, basically, off of one card. And this is a pyro, make sure that you're aware of that. So if you're playing Bonfire, I didn't in this build, but it is very, very easy to play Prosperity and Bonfire or just Bonfire. It's really up to you. Gargoyle are the extenders. This one can bump itself up to level 8. This one can drop itself down from level 8 to level 4. And then Emeth helps you play around hand traps. And this card is just really, really good when you're playing Droplet, Super Poly, and cards like that. Obviously, you have triple Ash Blossom to be able to, just to explain this really quick. Most of the time when they like try to imperm one of these and it's on their turn, Emeth can yeet it out of the way. So that's how I wanted to explain that. Triple Ash Blossom, I feel like it's just still really, really good. It still dominates cards like Branded Fusion, the public enemy cards, and there's just not enough good things to say about it, and it's a road killer. Triple Ghost Ogre, it's been a long time since both of them were good at the same time. Right now is one of those times. Highly recommend playing 3 and 3 of both, because this dominates Tempai and dominates a lot of stuff where shifter decks have kind of lost the same kind of favor because new decks have entered the fray. And a lot of those decks are like siding shifter, so there's less shifter. With the more shifter you would think, there's actually been less shifter. And that makes cards like Ghost Ogre really, really insane. As long as you can touch the grave, you're good. I want to bump this up in the hand trap build. Moonlit Chill is just really, really strong. And again, it's good against stuff like Tempai. This is good against Tempai, good against some of those decks. And then Moonlit is just really, really elite. And you don't care about what phase it's in. This is the Veiler that doesn't care about the phase. Make sure if you're playing against Tempai, you realize Veilers are useless. Make sure you're aware. Nibiru is also very, very strong, but you don't want to draw it too much against some matchups. So I'm playing one of, and I wanted to have something to cross out so you can kind of see the ratios of where that's going. Triple Imperm, just because it's the most versatile, it's the most fluid. While people are developing ways to play around Imperm or through Imperm, if it catches them, it's pretty much over with every time. Phalanx, to be able to dump off of the Wake Up Centurion that you're playing. And the Phalanx obviously is a spot removal as well and can help you float with Legacia sometimes to be able to pop a card or to be able to search a card or be able to protect cards, which is really, really interesting, be able to protect cards out of thin air because of the new Synchro. Protecting cards like Dimensional Fissure, stuff like that. It's just way too insane, and that's why I'm going to be just sticking with this deck. I love this deck. Stand Up Centurion is also really, really strong. Its side frame circuit just way, way better. And then obviously this triggers anytime something is special. Make sure it's not just when you are, it's anytime. Obviously, I feel like if you're playing against Tempai, you got to have the Bestials and you got to have Chaos Angel. That's the obvious choice that I'm making before I even continue on. But just make sure that you're aware that this is anytime, any place that they special. Emblem Oath to be able to either set a trap, set a speller trap, or flat out be able to put one of the Centurions that you didn't open into the back row and just go from there, and it's just game over. So you just got to play 3 of it, and you want to have this to be able to set cards up for furthering your activities within the game. Triple Prosperity. Again, you can find space for Bonfire. I wanted space for other stuff that I just wanted to try out, and the other tryouts were really, really good. And that was 2 Crossouts, 2 Super Poly, 2 books. I was playing 3-3-3. This dominates Tempai, dominant against stuff like Colossus, and there's been a lot more Colossus, and this has just been really good, and it pushes through hand traps. Probably can play Book of Eclipse as well, and you can just side it, so that's probably why it's like, while these are good, you can just side them, or you can just side Eclipse, and it's pretty much essentially the same thing, and just more of a blanket if you're playing Eclipse. But Book of Moon is insane, and I can't say enough good things about it. and there's less Omni Negate, so that makes this card better. And it kind of, you know, stuff like Cash is still there, so you still got to respect it. Super Poly, just because it dominates everybody else. And then Crossouts, just because pushing through the Ghost Ogre most of the time is what I'm worried about. And the Ash Blossom is all I really care for. And if it's anything I'm worried about, I pretty much got the cross out for it. And then, like, a lot of times niche situations, Prosperity, okay, cool, cross there, Prosperity out, now they can't do anything. You Ash Blossom the actual play that they had. Really, really good all the way around. And it's just good enough right now to where it's like perfect chef's kiss right now. These are just all good in their own ways. Because you play Crossout, you don't need like to play multiple talents and multiple designated, because then you just draw them all together and they won't do anything by themselves. But if you draw the one-ofs, the Primera, the Trudea, and all that, you draw the Bonfire if you're playing it. You're playing the Prosperity, and you get to start off. Having these to be able to just take care of the rest of things, break boards, Forceful Sentry them, it just, not enough good things can be said about it. Terraforming and Bonds obviously is being able to place into the back row to be able to reload your plays. I do consider this a strong card, but I don't feel like you ever need more than one. But it is a strong card, and especially if you want to play like a mill version of this deck. That's another one I want to mess around with as well. Maybe Lightsworn, you know, who knows? You can make the Minerva Lightsworn do some crazy things, and it's pretty generic. So, you know, it is what it is with that. The side deck is just specific to what I deal with most of the time in an event, in an online event. It just depends on what it is. Obviously, with the Dogwoods, you have an ability to stop Tempai kind of in their tracks. They can't really cover the ground on it. There's only like one line of play where they can, and if they do, you know, it is what it is with that. Most of the time, they can't kill you through this, especially if they don't get to Trident. They cannot kill you through that. So, you know, it is what it is with that. Probably would consider Phantasme somewhere as well in here, maybe Pancratov. There's a lot of Fenrir. You know, there's a lot of go second cards that you can probably play over these, but this has also been really, really strong. And the more that I see more people playing this, the more I want to cut this, but it's so dominant against some of those decks that you have to play it, and you don't care anything about Shifter, and you can main it with some Bestials and dominate a whole nother type of room. I've been dealing with another type of room, so that's why I've been playing things the way I have, and that's really the only thing you're making with deck choices, because the cards are correct up to like 35 cards anyway. Feather Duster, Dark Ruler, Lightning Storm, and Lightning Storm. I'm trying to take people out going second, and that's my best way to do so. And, you know, if it's combined with a deck that loses to Shifter, then just being like, and get them out of there is just really, really good. And if they, you know, they gave you a lot of stuff and you just Dark Ruler them and kill them, and they gave you a lot of life, well, you know, that's nice. And then closer to time, and the closer the game is to being over with, the more you want to just rush them and get the game over with cards like these. And then obviously for going first, going to be maining this because of the triple Omni Negate board that you can make. And then the anti-spell, while it was really, really good, just play 3 barrier, just because you're going to beat the decks like Flu, where you would really be playing this, so it's really not all that worth it. As far as the extra, it's going to be obvious choices and points that I want to make. The best card in the extra deck is Blazar and Hot Red. Can't say enough about them. Going to be bumping this up, actually, because in the Omni Negate boards with Shadow's Light, because of Shadow's Light, this card just gets even more strong, or you'll have it as a setup prior to, you can have it as a setup prior to doing anything. And then additionally with cards like Supernova, and then the new card, Auxilla, being able to protect continuous traps is really, really good. Deck lockdown, dimensional fissure, other stuff like that, where they're going to want to be like, Lightning Storm, get that off the field. And that's why this card is elite, and you're going to want to play 2. Not even a question, 2. If you only have one, you can make it work, because that, you know, I've only seen one in my locals, which is very, very strange, because it's not that rare, but I've only seen one, and people just haven't had it. It's just strange. But for me, this has just been doing well, and I've just ordered one because I was tired of waiting. So play 2 of this. The Hot Red speaks for itself. Cosmic Blazar, bump it up to 2. This card dominates everybody else. So you need cards like that to just, what's this matchup do? It doesn't matter. Hypernova. Supernova. I keep saying Hypernova, pardon me. Crimson, Legacia. This is where you can play 2 and 2 of this. You can play 2 and 1 of this. You can play 2. You can mess around with the ratios. I like seeing Legacia, and I like popping their cards. And that comes up a lot. And you can synchro on their turn and pop them in the middle of their turn. And then come back to you and pop their monster again. So I want to play 2 and 2. And there's just obvious space that you can make. Probably be right here. Because in the simplified game state, this isn't quite what it was, because the meta has changed. And just stopping one thing like that just isn't quite enough. Now, when they get 1 or 2 cards in their hand, then this card is game over with. But you can make an easy cut. You can make this a dweller. You can just attempt cards. You can attempt spots where this wouldn't be quite as good. Pack bid is insane, and I would never cut this card. This card is phenomenal. It does well with the Dogmatica package, which I'll be messing around with again because this is an honorary Centurion card and it puts cards in the back row. You know, it is what it is with that. The Exceeds that I've been playing has been Baguska as well as Dingursu. Have been messing around with Dweller as well, but Baguska has just covered more ground for me more often. But Dweller is also really, really insane. Probably is a rank 8 that's better. It's a new one. It's like a dragon looking guy. There's just a lot of ideas, but Gersu has been getting games over with, and I like that. So if you're doing simple, get the game over with. But there are definite spots where you can attempt to put something right here. I recommend Baguska. I'm not going to cut it. I am cutting this just because Baron has disappeared, so this is no longer quite as relevant. The Little Knight with something else isn't quite there anymore, so you obviously maybe Guilty Gear free now. You just have to kind of mess around with it for yourself, figure out what you can. But it was good for its time. But get out of here. Underworld Goddess is just me, just because there's a lot of weird Towers decks that I deal with. So, you know, if I'm like, man, how do I get over this? I don't have a skill, you know, I could play skill drain where hand traps are, I could do all that, or I could just Underworld. And then a lot of these decks, can I get her off the field? Obviously, with Mudragon and Garura, you have just massive ability to take over the game, but I definitely want to recommend the Dogmatica stuff because being able to mess with more of the packages, more of the cards, play Ultimate Slayer possibly, there's space to try all these things out, guys. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Let me know what you think about Centurion down in the comments. What build do you want to see next? We got so much content that I'm tired of talking, so I'm out. Pegasus out. Arrivederci. Shabane!